about how would I?
All right, guys, we are live.
Ooh,
Get some people in here and have some fun tonight. Chris, we are both sick and dying.
yes, we are.
You're recovering, probably.
Man, I've been sick since the 3rd of January.
Right. You're on the tail end of it, and
Yeah,
I'm in the middle.
yeah, it's about out of me now.
But I'm getting better. Saturday didn't help as I was climbing mountains in
Well, me
Pennsylvania.
neither. We was pulling mother-in-law's well in
Mm-hmm.
in 9 degrees,
Fun
180
stuff.
foot hole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so I was
I was in the
outside.
snow walking with clients, and you were pulling a well pump.
Yeah,
So
which still
anybody
isn't
listen?
still isn't fixed.
No, still isn't fixed.
Someone's coming tomorrow to fix
Um,
it.
get get some people joining in here.
We got
Yeah,
anybody in here yet?
not there was, but there we go. It's delayed a little bit, so we're getting some people now.
Because I can't see a counter on my end.
I put out a thing like 2 days ago where I scheduled this, and there was a bunch of people that was supposed to join in. So we'll see how
Hey,
tonight goes.
I just got this notification.
Right, that's what I say. It's delayed, so
Somebody went live.
yeah, people are just now getting it. But so here's the deal, guys. We do this once a month live, and we answer all of your food plot and habitat questions. There's a number at the bottom of the screen floating around. You guys can actually call into the show, and we will answer your questions live on the air. You do not have to call. You can just simply comment, and we'll bring your question up on the screen and answer it for you there. The calling is just an option, just like the comment is.
Welcome, Mr. Smith. Welcome, Country Roads Outdoors.
Yep. So, Red
I didn't even try that one. I just said Mr.
Red
Smith.
Till Undead Smith. What's up? And then you got Country Road Outdoors. What's up, buddy? So yeah, you guys can do either one you want.
Miss Smith. I'm sorry. Hello, Mrs. Smith.
So that's what's up for tonight. Also, as you can see in the upper right hand corner, I have a logo there for the Great American Outdoor Show. That's coming up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Me and Chris will be there opening day, February 3rd. We're always there every year, but if you guys want to meet up and
stop us in the hallway and we will fist bump you.
Yeah, no handshakes, just give you a fist bump, and we will answer questions for you there as well and meet up. So
yeah,
that's pretty much how tonight is going to go.
Mrs. Smith is from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. So if you guys have any questions, habitat questions, food plot, answer them away, ask them away, or you could call. I am bringing up some pictures here. This is all part of tonight, habitat and all that good stuff. When I go to clients' properties, and Chris can contest to this, but there's always a trend. There's a common theme that you see on each property, and it's very, very common. And it's usually entry and exit routes and these box blinds that
hi Nathan,
that customers set up. And it is the location of these box blinds and the location of the entry and exit routes that primarily screw up the property. So recently, I've been on some properties, and I want to bring up this picture here. Can you see that, Chris?
I can see it, yes.
All right. Can you see the mouse on the screen? The cursor?
No.
Okay. Anyway, as you guys can see on the picture, this box blind is sitting on the ground overlooking a food plot. Well, there's many problems here. One, the road goes left to right. There's a trail there, actually. It goes left to right where the customer was walking in and out. So therefore, either side he comes on this blind, the food plot's exposed, he's exposed, and they're detected right away. So at first, immediately when I saw this, I said, this is not good. And long story short, they're taking it off the food plot. They're getting rid of this blind altogether. They're
Get
moving
out
it.
of here.
Yeah, they're moving it to a different spot completely. They're moving it to the far right behind this huge brush pile that's on the right hand side, which is they're going to move it about another 20 yards to the right in the corner of the food plot. The road in the backside drops off, so they will be able to walk on the bottom side and get to the backside of that blind and not be detected. So, Chris, what do you see? I mean, I just said it, but what is your opinion about this location of this blind?
Well, like you said, their approach is using the plot. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
not even trying to sneak in from behind or anything like that. Not a good idea. So primarily that would just be an evening sit. You would
Mm-hmm.
go in mid-afternoon before the deer start moving and get in there and sit all night. But then you got to get out of that thing undetected. How?
Right.
Well, that
Right.
could be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So ditching it over there behind that brush pile would have a little, well, it's kind of brushing it in, if you will. But yeah, you say there's a road behind that brush pile that drops off. They can sneak in there undetected sometime. Maybe there might be a few deer out there already when they approach that field. Because what
Mm-hmm.
if there is? If there is, well, they either bump them off or, uh, you know, if they haven't moved by then, though, and it's behind that brush pile, they might be able to sneak in undetected.
Right.
So, be good thing to get it off the edge right there where it's very visible.
Yeah, they're actually getting it, moving it to another spot. They're buying a elevated box blind, and they're taking it off to the right behind brush, and there's like a cluster of pine trees there, and they're going to set it on the back side of that pine tree, so therefore they can walk down the road and climb right into the backside of that blind.
Gotcha.
And I told them the whole idea of that was to be able to get in and out, with there still being deer in the food plot. They
Yeah.
should be able to get in and out.
Right.
Um, I have a couple more examples we'll discuss too. Let's see, we got Nathan in the house. What's up, Nathan? His question.
Country roads.
Go ahead and read it.
It says 75-acre lot, Big Woods Mountains in West Virginia. 50% covered in mountain laurel and rhododendron, with laurel so thick a deer couldn't walk through it in some areas. What's your opinion on these?
Chris, you're the expert on rhododendron
Woo!
and mountain laurel.
Yeah, yeah.
So take it away. So if that's covered on
50%
his
covered.
if that's on his private land, what does he do?
Well, you can do what I do. I set up right on the edge of it, right where it
Mm-hmm.
breaks into open woods. And I find a tunnel or something that they're moving through that stuff somewhere. And I find their exit from that thickness to the openness where they're coming to a destination of an oak flat or something. That's my case anyhow, where I hunt. They're breaking out into the open into the oak flat, and I'm right there above the laurel. You can either see them or hear them coming, and that's how I actually hunt bears too. I get on right on that edge, on that break line, and that's how I hunt them. That's how I hunt
Mm-hmm.
an area like that.
Now, if you have 75 acres, and like to me, looking at it from a habitat standpoint, I agree with you. And he has 75 acres of it. 50% of that is covered. That's a lot of
That
area
is a
that's
lot.
covered.
Yeah.
So, like me, I would look at it as
So the rest would be
okay,
big woods.
yeah,
I'm
big
assuming.
woods, mountains, yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, what I would do would be to eliminate. You don't want to eliminate all of that. You never want to eliminate all of something. So, I would eliminate a huge portion of that with mulcher, whatever you got to do to get rid of it, and maybe create like different pockets or something, and have certain areas with the rhododendron and mountain laurel, because you don't want to get rid of it, because Chris actually hunts that in the mountains, and the deer, come in and out of that. So you see deer coming in and out of that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
you don't want to get rid of it.
you do bring up a good point. If it is his private land, see, I can't do that because it's public.
Right.
But if it is his private land, a mulcher would be awesome, just to run a strip right through it, and
Mm-hmm.
they would run down the ease of of what am I trying to say? Least
Path of least
resistance.
resistance. Yep.
Yeah, they would go. They would filter and funnel into that least resistance path that
Hmm.
you made with a mulcher through the middle of that sucker,
Hmm.
and I would be set up right there over top of that path.
Yep. Yeah, you can actually direct those paths even in and out of food plots or around your tree stand. You can kind of lean them towards your tree stand. Um, all that would be great. Yes, about 3 acres of food plots. I've also cut some bedding areas, and yes, it's private. Yeah,
Cool.
so it'd just be a matter of cleaning that area up, get rid of
Yeah.
some of that rhododendron, um,
Well, you're
pushing
way ahead of
trails.
the game, man. Way ahead of
Hmm.
the game. You got it figured out already. You just need to do a little bit of work here and there,
Yep.
and you just guide them into where you want them to go. Funnel them in.
An example of funnels would be this picture here. Um, this picture here was my old farm, and we used these screenings here as pinch points and how we would enter and exit food plots and how we dictated where the deer moved past our tree stand. Chris, you remember all this, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
planted it all. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you planted it all. But
Most of it.
yeah, it works great though.
It.
It it did. And the stand that we hunted out of would be this stand right here.
Oh
It's the
yeah.
same setup. It was a pine tree that we cut out the branches of, and we got two stands in there, and we could literally do jumping jacks in that stand.
It
And
was a
you,
good spot. Yeah.
yeah, and you could not be seen. And this relates to all of this tower blind hunting, where the tower blinds are out in the middle of the food plot. How do you get to it? How do you hunt it? And here's another example of that. This is a property that I visited in Kentucky, and it was actually an outfitter. Look at this blind. And I'm not making fun of these guys. I always ask if I can take pictures and use them as examples because it's all about learning. And Chris, what do you see wrong with this picture?
Well, I think their idea here was they was wanting. It looks like it's that in the center of the picture, just past the blind. Looks like it might be a pipeline
Hmm.
or a power line or something. I think I think I think they're probably thinking on long range usage there. That was probably their idea so they could see far.
Right.
But the deer can also see you from that distance also,
Hmm.
looking
Yeah.
from their perspective. So if he backed that thing up into that brush on the left, into that pine, how it sort of sticks out, and if he sort of tucked it in back in there, man, those deer wouldn't even pay attention to that thing.
Yeah. So when I was there, we actually took this blind and moved it back to where I was standing, taking the picture about another 30 yards behind me.
Hmm.
There was about a 20-yard strip of cedars, eastern red cedars and pines that we put this blind on the other side of that, and
Oh,
they
okay.
could access right behind it, and they could get in and out of the food plot because that was actually turned into a food plot. They could get in and out of that, and it's a great spot where they have been.
What's up,
And
Teddy?
who we got?
Teddy from Off the Hook.
Oh, where you go?
Yeah. So
Um,
could so when they moved that back behind the cedars, could they see over the cedar?
mhm.
Okay. Well, it's easy just to
Well,
top one out too if they need to.
yeah. So they set it back in there, and I think they cut like a little window out.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
I mean, they could literally walk behind the blind, climb right in, and undetected, 100%.
Nice.
And I'll give you guys another. I'm hammering on this because like I said, it's a common theme. Um, this is another example of the old farm. Um, this was tucked. Look at you on the ladder. This was tucked
Yeah.
back in the pines and cedars there, and we came up the back side of this, walked in, and we actually, you can't see it here, but we took brush in front of this thing, and we could get in and out of this blind with deer in the food plot. And this was probably what, Chris? Probably 30 yards off the food plot or
Yeah,
so.
if that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
something like that.
We did a project where we expanded a plot, and we had a skid steer in, and we knocked over a bunch of small pines and things, and we ended up taking some of that and pushing it up and brushing it up right underneath that blind, so it totally you couldn't see, like, you could see me there standing on the ladder underneath the jack stands there, but when we pushed that brush up, we pushed it right up to the height of the blind, so all you could see was that front brown in the front window there too.
Mm-hmm.
So if a deer was out in a plot, all they could see is that front brown.
Yep.
So that worked out perfect too.
Mm-hmm. Got a couple of questions here. Let's see. Go ahead, Chris. That's for you.
Yeah. Did I see the post of the video of the year from Yellow Tech? Make sure you vote for me. Yeah, Ted, I did. I did check that out. I didn't go over and vote yet. Okay, Ronaldo, the goat. I have a low covered land, mostly small bushes and grass, with lots of deer walking through it. What is the fastest and best deer bedding and cover? Because I want to start hunting it soon. Best cover, bedding and cover.
I have low covered land, mostly small bushes and grass with lots of deer walking
So it
through it.
sounds like he wants to thicken that up.
Yeah. What I would do, if you already have the bushes, so that's good. Leave the bushes. The grass is not bedding cover because the grass dies in the fall and you're left with nothing. So you need to either convert that area to switchgrass with the bushes in there, and you can even plant some cedars and pines and things like spruce trees, all kinds of different types of trees and things, and convert that to a bedding area. But the grasses you would have to spray and kill, get them out of there, control the weeds, and then get some sort of switchgrass planting in there. And you can, like I said, plant the pines, plant the cedars, spruce trees, all of that to add extra cover within that area. It's really the only thing you could do.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like he wanted to thicken that up.
Mm-hmm. Jared Miller. I have 6 acres private land, and ag is roughly 300 yards from my property. Neighbor above me is bedding. Is there a third anomaly I can introduce, or should I apply the theory? If you can't beat them, join them.
I mean, I'm guessing he has a spot to plant. Maybe that's why he's asking this.
Mm-hmm.
But you always, I would say, go for it. Put something in there, um, because you want something that they're just gonna walk through and take a nibble and give you a chance. I mean, if you, like we said in some of the other videos, if you do nothing, you don't have a chance at them. If you plant something there, maybe they'll, veer off and come through that little kill plot or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that you build, and you might get a crack at something. You got to make it happen, though.
Mm-hmm.
If you just sit idly by and say, I can't beat them, I'll join them, you're just going to be sitting on your land, and they're probably going to be skirting you, going around you, and heading out to that other field or whatever, so to the ag fields.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would say go for it. Put a kill plot in there, and put a nice blend in, something that they're going to be nice and green for you in the fall, and try to have them veer in there on you.
Yeah, you got to be careful on small property like 6 acres, because you start getting too crazy with things. Every time you come in there to access your land, you just start bumping stuff. You could maybe thicken it up a little bit, and then, like Chris said, put a food plot in, but you got to be careful where that food plot is, because you still got to make sure you can get in there. And like, also, when you plant food, deer kind of relocate as well. So where there's a good food source, they want to be close by. So who cares really on 6 acres, like where the deer are bedding? You already know they're bedding 300 yards away. So, and we literally just talked about this on the podcast that came out yesterday with Chris's. Why don't you talk about that real quick, because it might help Jared out.
Which portion?
So we discussed the differences between private land and public land, where the deer are bedding, and how they leave and don't come back sometimes. But on
Yeah.
your land, your mother-in-law's land where you
Oh, okay.
manage the food plots, the
Yeah.
deer are bedding 400 yards away in a swamp,
Right.
but they end up on your land every afternoon. Talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. They would. There is a stark difference from public to private, and I was saying about the public land that is state land, how in the summertime I was getting tons of pictures of big monster bucks, and right about the time they rubbed their antlers off, they would disappear, and some of them I would probably only see maybe 10% of them again. But when you go to my destination plots on private land where there's not a lot of pressure, there would be a scenario where, like David said, I've got swamp down here, and there's a gas line that goes right down into the swamp, so it's easy access for them to be able to just walk 400 yards straight in on me, and basically the path of least resistance again. They would travel that up to 400 yards. A lot of them were bedded within that 400 yards, and they would come in, and I had a unique situation this year where I kept at least 50 to 60% of the bucks that I saw in the summertime. I saw 50 or 60% of them come back, and I saw them all during archery season.
Mhm.
So stark difference, very stark difference.
So you had the food.
Yes.
You created a quality food source. The deer were bedding 300 to 400 yards away in a swamp,
Hmm.
and they traveled their way, not on your land, bedding.
No.
This is 300 to 400 yards away on somebody
Yeah.
wherever else, and they found your way to your food plot every afternoon. Multiple bucks, good ones.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the buck that you were after is, a girl shot it across the
Yeah.
street, but that's just the way it goes. But the
That's the way
point
it
is,
goes. Yeah.
yeah, that the point is, small properties, you can always do something. You can
Yep.
always do something. Food, deer will find a way to get there.
Yeah. They live by their stomach, man.
Yeah, you have a high quality food source, the deer will find a way. Does it always work out? No. Small, there's only so much you can do. Larger properties, it can get a little bit easier.
Yeah. I'm
But
only working on 20 acres there.
yeah, and
So,
this Jared had 6 acres, so you have to be careful. Enter and exit. Can't spook the deer, but if you have a quality food source, it can definitely pay off.
definitely draw them in.
Okay, I like this question here. So Nathan, what do you guys think of autumn olive bushes? I have several and need to know, should I remove them since they are an invasive species? If I remove them, when is the best time to remove them and how? So I get fired up about this because um, there's this huge thing now on social media with invasive species, and autumn olive is, it can get messy, and it's a losing never ending battle. Like, people try to get rid of honeysuckle and all this stuff, and they fight uh, till the bitter end of trying to get rid of it, and it just grows back. It's a never ending process on trying to get rid of invasive species. There's so many invasive species that we don't even know about that we think are native. And um, autumn olive bushes, if you take 20 acres of property and your entire 20 acres of property is surrounded, overtaken by autumn olive bushes, is that good? No. You should probably remove 75 or 60%, 60 to 70% of it, get rid of it. And you're going to have to maintain that. It's unfortunate. It's going to grow back, and you're never going to get rid of it. But you don't want to remove all of it, because some of it is cover for birds, some of it is for deer. And remember the old farm, Chris. It wasn't overtaken by autumn olive, but how many times in the harsh conditions of winter did we see deer eat autumn olive bushes
Yeah. Yeah. And then
right from the tree stand?
yep.
I have it on video.
Yeah.
Um,
They
they do
do.
eat it.
They do eat it.
Yes, when they get hungry, they
It's
do
not
eat it.
highly preferred, but
No,
when
nope.
there's a snowpack on like there is right now,
Yep.
that's a quality browse to them.
Just like honeysuckle, it may be a low priority on a list, but people try to take 20 acres, or they might have 20 acres and they got 2 acres of autumn olive, and they're fighting it, or honeysuckle, they're fighting it to the end, trying to get rid of it. But it's deer food. They eat it. It may be low quality, but they eat it. Why try to remove something, and it's just, I like autumn bushes. If it's overtaken, 100% get rid of majority of it. Try your best. You're going to have to cut it, spray it in the spring. In the wintertime, you can spray it with herbicide, cut it at the ground, but it's a never ending battle. You can bush hog it, brush cut it every few years. But it's one of them things where it's unfortunate. But it happens. And autumn olive is one of them things where it can get out of control, but you do not want to get rid of all of it.
Birds and bees.
That's my rant.
They like the bees too.
Do you excuse me, do you think when I plant that switchgrass, I can get the big deer that I have been seeing? I always see this 10 point at night, like 9 p.m., and maybe put in a food plot to help that. Yeah, so there's primarily two reasons why you see bucks at nighttime. One is they're pressured, they're spooked, and they come back to your land at nighttime. Or two, they're usually bedded pretty far away, and they show up at your land at nighttime. Why is that? Well, there's probably no food. So if you add that cover, the switchgrass, and you plant a food plot, it's dramatically going to help your chances for sure. Chris?
Yeah, that was the fellow that asked. He had the 6 acres, and they were bedded, or the ag field was 300 yards away.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's talking about putting the switchgrass in, and I mean, just planting switchgrass isn't going to guarantee you're going to get that buck or even see him, but it gives him a chance, like a soft edge, to come out of that woods and maybe sneak into that plot that you plant
Mm-hmm.
or something.
Exactly.
He might come sneaking in there, and you might get a crack at something that way. So yeah, I mean, it's worth trying.
Mm-hmm.
And on 6 acres, like you said before, you don't want to overdo it with like tree work either, because the more stuff you take out of there, the less wood you have left. I
Right.
mean, but if you know they're coming through your 6 acres for sure, you could steer them through there with some TSI and things. Something
Mm-hmm.
else to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, guys, we got a lot of people joined in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We're here to help you. I have this other video that I want to play, and it's the last that I'm gonna harp on this, but this is a video. And you actually heard,
Yeah, heard a shot there. Yeah,
that is what you want, that blind on that back side, brush in the front, that blind tucked back into the back side of that. Cedars pines are the best if you have them, because they hold their, they stay green, evergreen. Conifers, they stay green all season long, and it's going to dramatically help your experience if you can. You just got to get that off the plot and not walk through the plot, right?
you're cutting out a little bit.
No,
Yeah, your microphone was cutting out a little bit.
no. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you just got to be careful with box blinds and all that. And I get to see a lot of it because I go to properties, but it's just it's a common.
I'm surprised a lot of people have box blinds. They're costly.
The property I was at Saturday, they're talking about buying like 4 of them.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. So they're costly, 25, $2,600. So
Of course, I was going to say, of course, if they have the money to have a consultant come out and look, they
yeah,
probably have a little bit of money
yeah.
sitting around. Hey, there's Jay Cone, living every day outdoors.
What's up, Jay?
Mark C says, when do you see them dropping their antlers? Well, that all depends on nutrition wise too. Some different. If a deer is poor nutrition, sometimes they drop them as early as rifle season. Someone will, I seen that quite a few posts this year in December there where someone shot a buck and they went up and grabbed it by the antlers and went to drag it away and it popped off in their hand or something,
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's based on their nutrition, Mark. I mean, so uh can't really answer that directly, but yeah, some of them drop between December and I've seen them as late as April, some of them,
Hmm.
you know, before they've actually dropped some of them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors: nutrition, stress. Uh, if they're injured or sick or they're just wore down or whatever, they drop them earlier. But yeah, I mean, there's so much. I would say February is probably like your primary time,
Yeah,
but
everybody starts shed hunting around
yeah,
then.
but I've seen them, like you said, I've seen them in April still holding,
Yeah,
like one side or something.
yeah.
But yeah, it's so much of a lengthy process that goes on with that.
Hello, average outdoor guy.
What's up, buddy? God.
Jared again. He says, do deer mostly travel contour lines in their travel? Is that the best place for food plot to be located in general, or how would you best determine a location?
So yes, they're going to travel the path of least resistance. The location of a food plot should be where you can place the food plot, where you can get and hunt that food plot without having to walk through your property to get to it. So whether it's accessing it through like the perimeter of the property and then cutting into a food plot, having a food plot away from bedding, and then having tree stands in between the bedding and food to be able to hunt it, to have huntable transition zones to be able to catch them moving from bedding to food. The food has to be in an area where it gets adequate sunlight. So all of this kind of goes in hand on where determining where to put this food plot at, right?
Average outdoor guy asks, when is the best time to plant screening in central Ohio? Now, I'm in PA, so if you're in central Ohio, that's just straight across Interstate 80, probably from me. I'm right off of 80. But for me, I get I get planting my screening. I try to do it around the beginning of May. And the reason why I say that, and it's not a date thing, believe me. Usually it's because the soil temperatures haven't heated up enough to be planting something. I like the soil temperature to be 55 or higher at all times. Like at nighttime when it drops, I want it to be at least no less than 55. 55 and up is best for me. That's how I see it. Well, you got an opinion, Dave? Sound good?
Yeah, I would just say nobody knows the best time to plant except
No.
you know,
Yeah.
where you're at.
Where you're at and
Um,
what temperature you got.
yeah, you got to go by temperature. Where I'm
Soil
at,
temp, not air temp.
yeah, soil temp. And there's a good website for that. Um, I can't remember what it's called, but if you Google soil temperatures across the U.S., there's a website that pops up. You can punch in down to your zip code, and it tells you your soil temp. But where you're at, you're probably looking mid to end of May to plant somewhere around there. Um, that would be where I would start. On that bag, there's going to be planting dates. It's going to range from probably 2 months long, and it could probably be planted within that 2 months. But soon as you're after any danger of frost, like where I'm at in Maryland, like my last frost is May the 15th. That's average. Um, it's going to vary across, the country. Where further up north, that frost date is going to be further into May. Further down south, then it's going to be earlier in May and April. So you got to go by soil temp. Look at the website. Just Google it, and it tells you your soil temps, and you can pay attention to that because it's pretty cool to look at it. Yeah.
Jay says, our season ended here yesterday. I had the same $10 on a high quality food source the entire season. Great entry and exit for the blind. That's what it's all about, Jay. That's what we're trying to stress here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Tim B says, Scott, in an area on public land in New Jersey, mostly pine and scrub oaks. One side of Access Road had a large forest fire last spring. By next hunting season, would fire area be better than an area without fire? I would say 100%, man. You're going to have all that fresh flush of green coming back from that fire. And they are going to be wanting in there for that short, subtle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All that palatable young green stuff is going to be fire for you. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, New Jersey, not too far from me. I can get to New Jersey in about an hour and a half. But yeah, that fire area, spring turkeys, going to be in there. You'll have a huge flush of green growth. Obviously, it's going to depend. It's going to be dependent on the amount of sunlight you have, but you'll still get some green growth in there. And you obviously, when you get a fire like that, you set back the hardwood regeneration. You set back a little bit, but it's a good practice to do. I really like it in the southern states because you have the green that stays green longer into the fall and winter months. In the northern states, I don't really like fire. Maybe one time just to start fresh, but you got to have the woody browse effect in the northern states for wintertime food. So, but yeah, in general, you're going to have tons of green forage and deer and turkey in those areas. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Terrell, soil temperature website I use.
So he uses it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Chris, why don't, we're going to talk about frost seeding. Why don't you start that out, Chris?
Frost seeding. When's the best time? Well,
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm here in Central PA, so for me, it seems to hit around the end of March time. And what you're looking for is a period of time that your soil is frozen at night, and during the daytime, it's going to heat up and expand and thaw. And so, what that does is that creates the heaving of the ground. Do you ever notice when the ground freezes, you see them little crystals and things and little cracks and crevices? That's exactly what you want. You want to put out, first of all, you need to have soil that is bare or almost bare. You want to be able to see dirt, and you want to have all the debris raked off or leaf blown off or whatever you need to do to get rid of that debris. Spread your seed so that it has contact with the soil, and then nature's way, like I said, the heaving, the thaw, freeze, thaw, freeze, thaw, what it does is it sucks the seeds down into those little cracks and crevices, and there is no tillage needed. It'll suck it right down into the ground, and what you've essentially done is you've planted a clover plot or chicory or alfalfa, things, legume type things. So yeah, that's the easiest way to get established in the spring.
Before I cut you off, but the
The
website for soil temperature is greencastonline.com, and I just punched in mine, and it says current soil temperature 31 degrees, 24-hour average of 30, and 5-day average of 30.8. So you can kind of look at that when you start getting closer to planning and say, okay, I'm looking at my weather. It's a trend of steady 60s or what, 65, 70 in the projected forecast of planning. And then you look at the soil temperatures and say, okay, well, if my temperatures during daytime temperatures are staying in the 60s, 70s, my soil temp should stay pretty much close to that. And you can use that as a guide to when you should plant. And it's just easy. It's easy to do. So green cast online. I saved it in my, like, one of my bookmarks on my phone. So I can just click on it and check it anytime.
Okay. Sandy.
In Adirondacks, we are having a relatively mild winter. Does that have a correlation with antler grows or size? I don't think so. Some people, I've read sometimes where you have to have like the winter for that, but I don't think so. Really, you don't want a hard winter because it just stresses the deer, especially if there's a lot of snow. I'm sure you get a lot of snow up there, and um, the less stress they have, the better. That's why, like, all these guys go out shed hunting and they're pushing, all their woods and bumping the deer. Like, I don't really shed hunt. I don't really need to. I don't really like to. But if I have private property, I'm leaving it alone, especially in very, very cold temperatures. I mean, it's fun to do. If people want to do it, that's perfectly fun. But it's all about stress. And if you're constantly bumping them out, they're trying to lay low when it's cold. They're hungry. You don't have quality food around. But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Chris?
Well, I'm not going to say I disagree with what you say, but I do disagree a little bit. And the only reason why I say that is if they're having a mild winter, maybe they're able to dig down and get that more nutritious food and things and come out of winter better, you know? Um, so I don't know that it correlates to bigger antlers, but it's going to be better nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get a hard ice pack on or whatever, and they're just browsing. But if they don't have that hard pack and they can dig or whatever, they might be able to graze actually and browse. So, I mean, they might be able to come out of it better nutrition wise, is all I wanted to say. Not necessarily disagreeing, but, and I, and I would hope the better nutrition would add to antler growth, but I can't prove it. So, just saying.
Dig up. You're welcome.
Country road.
Can you frost seed switchgrass if the weeds are controlled? Yeah. But the whole thing with switchgrass, man, you have to have a 100% prepared seed bed. You got to control weed. Like, if I go to like clients and stuff, the first year they're not planting switchgrass.
No,
They have to control the weeds all spring, all summer, no tillage. You're just killing the weeds, anything that comes back leading into the winter. I mean, you got to control that. And then the following winter, you can frost seed, but then yep, you can frost seed, but it's all about chemical use. You got to spray pre-emergence to prevent the weeds from coming in to allow the switchgrass to germinate. A good way to do it is no-till. Excuse me, is no-till as well. You could no-till switchgrass in, but if you prepare the seed bed very well, you can plant switchgrass. But the death of switchgrass is weed. So yes, you can frost seed it. I would say no-till would be better, but you can definitely frost seed.
And I guess if it's not pure live seed, if it's just regular hard seed, it needs time to stratify. And what I mean by that is it's kind of got like a shell on it, and the freeze thaw and all that action on the seed actually cracks that open and allows it to germinate. So
Yeah.
sometimes you need stratification time when you do that frost seeding.
Mm-hmm. And the new crave right now in switchgrass is RC Big Rock. That's like the
Yeah, I've been
newest.
seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, everything I read about. I mean, Cave and Rock, like that was kind of, I guess that's old now.
They said
But
that was like 30, 40, 50-year old
yeah,
variety.
right.
Now now
The
the
RC Big
RC's
Rock.
the new stuff.
Yeah, I haven't personally planted it yet, but it grows faster, germinates quicker, taller, stronger, like the whole shebang. Hello from liberal apocalypse week call Vermont. Mike and Jolene. What's going on?
What's happening? Country Road says simazine. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I think it's spelled with an S. But yeah,
yeah.
simazine.
Pre-emergent simazine before spring green up. I sprayed that a lot. It's nasty stuff, so be careful with it. Don't get it on your hands and stuff. But yeah, it works great. Actually, uh, Country Road Outdoors. I have a video on my YouTube channel. I think I just posted like 3 weeks ago where I visited my buddy Zach's property. He has switchgrass there. You can see in the field that's 1 year old, and it's a little spotty, but I got him to replant it, and he's going to replant it with a no-till setup, but that he's going to, I think is one of his farmers or around the area is going to do for him. But you have to control weeds, you have to spray simazine, you have to mow, you have to prep that soil. Otherwise it's a waste of your money, really. Our plan is to burn off an open overgrown field once it dries up enough here. The forestry department helps to do it in Florida for a fee. Very nice. Yeah, down where you're at, Jay. Fires and stuff down there are great. Because I mean, shoot, I mean your browse and stuff probably stays green into December. So you guys have a lot of months of food. Jay, actually, when is your spring green up? When do you start getting natural browse greening up? Is it I'm gonna guess probably March, maybe? But when is that down there? I'm very curious.
Can you imagine all the turkeys
I know.
after a fire? All the bugs and things that are laying around cooked. They're in there pecking around. They'd have a field day, literally.
10-4, I'll check it out. Thank you. Both are great and appreciate everything you all do.
Sure thing, Country
No
Road.
problem. I can't stop coughing. So where are we at here? Jay, I'm waiting on an answer from Jay.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. It's got to be March. Here we go.
Oh boy. Here's a topic.
Go ahead and read it.
Liquid lime thoughts. Understand if works fast but doesn't last as long. Is that correct? In certain situations, you would use this. Well, the problem with liquid lime is you need to really read the label or the analysis of it and make sure that it's calcium carbonate, or you're not raising pH at all, bud. You're just adding calcium to your dirt. Sorry to say, a lot of these products are just straight calcium. They're derived from a different avenue, not from the carbonate standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So calcium carbonate is what raises pH. So
yeah,
be
like
careful of that.
my opinion of that would be yes, like Chris said, calcium carbonate. It does act fast, but lasts very little. So you could give it'd be like a little boost of calcium and a little, maybe a little twitch in pH number for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. But it has very little effect. You're better off literally adding just a bag of lime. Understand, if you can get an ATV back to the area you're planning, you can spread lime. Me and Chris did it. We have a million videos on YouTube from spreading lime.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very possible. What's that brand ATV spreader that I gave you with the 4-wheeler?
The
Buyers brand. That thing still works, right?
Oh, it does. Yeah.
And what was that, 5 years ago?
Probably.
Yeah. And that thing's been beat up. I mean, it's spread thousands of pounds of lime.
Yes.
Thousands and fertilizer. So liquid lime, questionable. I think you're better off with your efforts of bag lime. Okay, so I was right. Late March. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's just an example. Jay is North Florida. I'm in Maryland, Kristen, PA. So my spring green up is probably late April, early May. So that's a whole month difference. And then where you're at in the armpit of
The armpit of
Pennsylvania,
the world is what I call it.
you're what, mid to late May?
It
Like
feels
it's
feels like it snows till June here.
right. I mean, like
Lit-
I've been to your
Literally.
house, your camp there in mid May, and
Mid
there is
May.
not a single green thing out.
No. No.
So you have to remember deer. Imagine the difference of deer from Florida to Pennsylvania. They would freaking starve. I'm just exaggerating, but the difference in food in months of extra food is crazy.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to look at like habitat on your property is like if you can see straight through your woods 100 yards 150 yards there's no food and you have to do things different up in the north than the south. It's 100% different.
See,
um
that's why I don't understand why southern deer seem smaller and skinnier. Because
because
they can eat green all year long.
mm-hmm.
Why is
sugar
that?
sugar sand
Are they sweating it off? I mean,
sugar
I don't
sand,
know.
it's all sand, no nutrients in the soil.
Man,
Mm-hmm.
because things are green almost all year.
Yeah, there's big deer in Florida. I mean it,
Not rack size. I mean, thin,
yeah,
body wise. You know,
right.
you s-
It's different, you know.
yeah, for sure. And like I don't. If we get another question, we'll jump on it. But I mean, I go down a rabbit hole here. I've been seeing there was a big argument on Facebook the other day about uh, the percentage of Pell lime compared to ag lime again. And I got caught up in that years ago because my local ag people were telling me
We're
that I
still in that debate.
yeah, they were telling me that I could use less Pell lime. You know, Pell lime was more potent than ag lime. So I only needed this many bags to equal this much poundage of ag lime. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a big to do on that uh on that forum that I was reading. And some guys had it right though. They were like, "Hey, lime is lime as long as the analysis comes back." Like when I had that ag lime truck here and he come and spread 16 ton on my destination plot, his analysis coming out of that lime mine was like 98 point something percent. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're buying bags of pelletized lime, you need to flip that bag over and read what the CCE is. CCE means calcium carbonate equivalent, and you want as close to 100% as you can get. So if you're going to compare apples to apples, ag lime to Pell lime, they need to be somewhat close. So if you got 98 point something and this bag of Pell lime is 100% lime, CCE, why they're almost equivalent then. So if you're calling for 1,000 pounds of lime, it doesn't matter if you use 1,000 pounds of ag or 1,000 pounds of Pell. They're the same as long as the CCE is the same.
They're the same. I'm
Now,
making I'm making fun of your hand gestures.
yeah, I see that. But if your ag lime, is at 70% and your Pell lime's 100%, well, yeah, you're going to use more bag or less bags than you would the ag lime.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need
Yeah,
more ag lime.
it was a huge debate years ago on pellet lime. Oh, you only need half of it compared to the ag lime. It's just not true. You need the same.
Yeah, I mean, ag lime is ag lime as long as the CCE is really
Yeah.
close.
Jared, attending the Great American Outdoor Show. Yes, me and Chris will be there
First
uh, Fe-
Saturday,
February
third,
3rd.
third.
February 3rd.
Yep, third.
What's your thoughts on forestry mulching interior trails on a 40 that was logged a few months ago? Logging done to create bedding behind a 1.5 acre food plot. Trails not used during hunting in Wisconsin. Absolutely. If you like when you do a logging operation, it gets very thick. And I literally just explained this in detail with a client on Saturday because he had a lot of cutting to do. And you need to cut, but after the cutting is done, you need to come back and clean it up because whether that's a forestry mulcher, chainsaw, skid steer with a bucket, forks, whatever, you got to have trails in there so the deer can maneuver, weave in and out, no dead ends. And you can dictate where the trails go. You can lead them in the path that you want them to go, across your property instead of maybe on a narrow section where the trails are going on and off your property. Keep them long and narrow. It just depends how your property's shaped, but yeah, 100%. Mulching's great, and you can maintain those areas every 5, 6, 7 years or something with a mulcher, cleaning it up.
Yeah.
Uh-oh,
There it is.
there's your Chris. Chris is famous. Chris is famous.
Okay, Country Road. Go to my YouTube channel, City Sticker Chris,
Chris is famous.
and I have a video on the Alexander buck. Now it's just me standing there talking, but I give the details and some of my opinions, and it's not viral or anything, but it's got like 6,500 views and a bunch of comments. But you could check out my comments there. And now the cemetery buck, I'm not familiar with, but I think if I'm correct in PA, it's illegal to hunt cemeteries, if I can remember correctly. So I I don't know the situation there, but yeah, you're not supposed to be hunting in cemeteries in PA, as far as I know. Yepper. That's all I'm going to
So,
say about that.
mhm.
There's so much controversy over that buck. Woo, I hope it's legit, Country Road. I really do. But there is a lot of weird sounding stuff. I agree.
Off the cut doors, we always try to use pellets, but it is true. It takes about 3 months to get into the soil. Well, if you work it into the soil, disc it in, it's going to react faster. If you just set it on top, then yeah, it's going to take forever.
Yeah, it'll
Um,
it'll melt its way in.
yeah, but if
But
you can get it
really,
down,
yeah, like Dave's saying, what you want to do is you want to get it next to your seed.
mhm.
Actually, I mean, I'm not telling you to wait to do it while you seed, but it's got to be down there where the seed can get it. So
Yeah, work it down into the soil. That way, when the roots are growing, it's at
it's
the
drawing from it.
you know, yeah, it's at the roots level.
Mm.
Excuse me. What's the best bush shrub to play for deer? What do you for deer browse already hinge cut areas? Red osier dogwood. That's going to be your best. Deer love it.
I
Um,
would love to get some of them cuttings and try some of that.
so Zach has a bunch of it planted at his house that he planted 2, 3 years ago, and he bought them offline. He jabbed them in. It grows really well in wet areas,
Yeah,
and the deer hammer it. And so what he's doing now is he cut those cuttings. I think he might have his neighbor or something had a bunch growing and he cut, but he's stabbing them
yeah,
into those areas that we cut there a couple weeks ago. He's
right.
letting them grow up through the bushes and stuff. But it's a good practice. But the fail with it is that people plant it. That's why we always make jokes about it. But like people plant it, but they plant it in a wide open area and the deer just eat it down into the dirt and it dies.
Yeah,
Like it's got to be protected a little bit. So you have to plant it in like a brushy area to where the deer like physically can't get to it until it grows.
yeah.
So it's hard. Um, but yeah, it's
Huh.
great to plant.
It'd be all right to hinge cut a tree and then maybe poke some in amongst the branches or something.
That's what I had Zach do. We had hinge cut some trees, and he actually just flush cut a bunch of trees, maples and things, and he's planting bushes and dogwood inside of the treetops so the deer can't get to it.
Right.
That's basically nature's way of protecting that bush until it germinates.
Gotcha.
You can hunt the cemeteries if the upper permit to hunt there. I hunted Jefferson Cemetery.
Uno, dos, tres.
I have to go to dinner, but looking forward to rewatching this later. Perfect.
Okay, dude. We'll see you. He comments a lot on my videos.
Okay. I'm not familiar with the name. How long does it take to sweeten the soil? Because lime just lets the plants use nutrients that are in the soil, and plants don't use the lime. Plants use the lime, calcium and everything. They use that from the lime and things, and magnesium and all that good stuff. But to really see effect, you're what, 6 months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
That's what they claim. Yeah.
You can test it, retest it twice a year on soil sample, and you'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a long process. But like I said, you work it into the soil, it's going to react quicker.
Yeah, it definitely letting the plants use the nutrients, because if you don't have the right pH, then all that stuff's locked in. It's not uptaked into the plant. That's what the lime does for us. It allows that nutrients to be used by the plant.
Do you remember the percentages off the top of your head
Which ones?
with the compared to pH to fertilizer use? If your pH is low,
if my yeah.
you remember that off the top of your head?
Yeah, somewhat. Don't quote me, but it's real close. Like if you was at a 5.0, you were throwing away like 50% of your fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you was at like somewhere around a 6.0, it was like 30% loss, you know, that, and then on up. The closer you got to 7, of course you was using more of your fertilizer. Uh, like I said, don't hold me to that, but that just gives you a reference. Like if your pH is that low when you're adding your fertilizer, that's that much unusable fertilizer because your pH isn't high enough to let the plant uptake it.
Mm-hmm.
So 50% of the fertilizer you're putting in the ground is going to waste if your pH isn't high enough to use it.
A lot of money.
So that's a lot of money. That's why we harp on soil tests. And why
Mm-hmm.
would you not want to spend the $20 for that insurance when fertilizer is more than $20 a bag now?
Yeah.
So
One of the
if you're using hundreds of pounds of fertilizer,
yeah.
half of it's garbage. You may as well not even put it on.
One of the clients I went to this weekend, they've been planting food plots, and I asked him what a soil sample was. He's like, what do you mean soil sample? So like people aren't doing it, but and are failing with the plots, but they don't understand why. So that's why like a few years ago, I had so many videos on soil samples. I was literally making people mad because I kept doing it because it's so important to do.
Yeah.
And it's a step that people skip. And I still to this day don't understand why.
I don't know why. I don't know.
What's a good protein pellet? I don't know because I don't use protein pellets.
Yeah, me neither.
Domain makes some good feed, but is like a specific protein pellet. I'm sorry, Mark, I don't know because I don't use protein pellets. I don't know. Sorry.
I tried a brand one time, and all I did was grew trophy raccoons.
Mm-hmm. That's the problem with feeding.
Yeah.
Adding lime in March. That's a good time. I mean, you can do it in the snow as long as it's not ice where where you get like runoff and stuff. But if you had no snow in March, perfect. Me and Chris did that many times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use domain seed this year. Your videos on that stuff was awesome. That's awesome to hear. Thank you.
Good deal.
Perfect. Soil tests are the best bet. It pays for itself. It does.
For sure.
And a perfect example of that is 6 years ago when I planted a food plot behind my parents' house. I did a soil sample, but when that soil sample came back, I didn't need an ounce of fertilizer. Lime. It was the perfect 7.0 pH. Nothing ever was done to it. But if I go off the standard of looking on the back of a seed bag where it says add this much fertilizer, add this much lime or whatever to your plot, I would have wasted that much money on lime and I didn't even need it. And the soil sample cost $14.
Yeah. And usually they tell you something generic like add 100 pounds of 10-10-10.
Yeah. You might not need 10-10-10. You might not need 100 pounds of that.
No.
So how much I'm scared to look at fertilizer costs this year.
Well, it's like 25, 28 bucks a bag. Or at least it was last year. Hopefully it went down.
And you're planting an acre food plot and you're doing 300 to 400 pounds of fertilizer per acre. Dude, that's a lot of money. You need to spend $14 for a soil sample.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you tried out Dirty D's and did you see a difference? Looking into trying it out. My experience with that is, yes, I used it. It stinks like poo, but from my research and reading about it, talking to Mike, I really think it does have a huge impact on the soil. As far as seeing a difference, I don't know, but I can say that when I planted my fall plot is when I used it. My seeds germinated very quickly and we were in a drought and they stayed green for a very, very long time. I felt like more than normal. But we're going to be using it more this year in the spring and summer. And hopefully I'll be able to do I'll spray like one side, don't spray. It's just hard to do because you want the full effect of stuff. It's like, you don't want to spray a small portion. Like, I know it works. Like, I trust Mike. I trust what he tells me. And if you just look up Google humic acid, you can just read the benefits on it. I don't know if Chris, did you see like a dramatic difference with it or?
I don't know because I didn't do a test strip or anything.
Right.
I just sprayed the whole quarter acre.
Yeah, we're going off by what Mike is telling us. Mike is telling us. I trust what he says. And like I said, just Google humic acid and the benefits.
It sure didn't hurt nothing.
No, it's not going to hurt nothing. Well, we're going to continue to use it. I trust what Mike says.
Yeah, like you said, you look up humic acid and see what it does for you. It does a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Purina and Antler King make a good high protein pellet for your deer herd. There you go.
There you go. There's an answer.
Yep, that answered him. I think a Trophy Rock make a good protein pellet. Yeah, I don't know if Trophy Rock makes a protein pellet. I'm not sure. Let me ask you. Go ahead and read that. I need water.
It says, let me ask if you are at a 7.0 this year and you don't add fertilizer after your plots grow, does your plot need the nutrients added for the next year, or do you plant something to replenish it? Well, no matter what's in the plot is using nutrients at all times. So that's why these people that do the soil test, they'll tell you, like Penn State says, you don't have to do it every year. You can go every 3 years,
That's crazy.
I don't do that. I test every year because if you have a certain blend that has a certain product in it that uses a certain nutrient, it may need replenished for next year. So by doing a test every year, I assure that I have everything spot on, putting in what I need.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answers your question. But
I think I'll answer maybe a little bit different, but from what I'm getting from it. So if you have a pH 7.0 neutral you should be able to utilize majority of your nutrients in the soil. If you continue to plant there year after year, then yeah, your nutrients are going to diminish. But there's a lot of factors in that, because you have to look at, and I'm going to give you an example. You have to look at like the CEC of the soil. If that is low, the nutrients in the soil are going to kind of wash through it like a screen
Leach,
door, instead of, leach through it.
leach out quick.
Yep, like a screen door, instead of being like a sponge. And you want your soil to be like a sponge to where it holds the nutrients. So the old farm, we had this little 1/4 acre food plot off to the right. It was one of the worst soils that on the whole farm. And I worked on it. Me and Chris worked on it for 3 years. After the 3rd year, we did not need to add fertilizer. None. We did a soil sample and it was boom. Everything was in the optimal range. And that was from doing tillage. Yeah, we till the soil. Lime, fertilizer, turning sunflowers, all
Yeah,
them sunflowers and buckwheat.
We turned a lot of stuff back into the dirt, which
Yep.
added the nutrients back in.
And it made that soil into a sponge.
Organic matter
Yep.
helps hold all that stuff together,
Yeah.
and that's part of the CEC number.
Mhm.
You know, it kind of gauges how much organic matter that you have, and,
Yep.
and nutrient holding capacity
Yep.
is
And
what
I
the CEC basically means in layman's terms.
and I have a video on my YouTube channel about buckwheat and creating your soil is your bank account. So your soil, you're building your soil up into the bank account. You, for instance, you might have to add 300-400 pounds of fertilizer an acre, over time, and you're working on soil, you're building it up. Over time, the soil is going to reward you, because you're not going to have to spend as much money to give it the nutrients. So you're adding 300 pounds of fertilizer. Okay, well, you get to a certain point where it doesn't need it. And then all of a sudden, the following year, okay, I only need 1 bag of fertilizer just to maintain it. You just throw a little bit at it. So you spend the initial cost, you build up the soil, and then in the long run, it rewards you by you not having to spend the extra money to put into it. There might be a year that goes by where you just say, okay, I'm just going to throw a couple bags of lime at it, maybe 1 bag of fertilizer. Well, you just saved yourself a couple $100. So that's how you have to look at it.
And I'll add to that's one reason why I don't like when they do this, what they call that, crimping and stuff. When they do that crimping crap and they spray it with herbicide. Why? Put disc that stuff back into the dirt, green and living, so that it decays naturally. When you spray herbicide, you're drying the stuff out. You're suffocating it. You're drying it out and losing some of the nutrient value, I think, because it's laying on top and just burning off in the sun. Why? Put it then in the dirt where you can use it as organic matter.
Yeah, it's going to decompose in the soil, and it's going to be nutrients there at the root level when the new seed germinates.
Especially if it's some kind of legume or something.
Right.
You're going to be banking nitrogen right there off the nodules that are established.
You're a nodule.
I got a nodule in my throat.
Imox rocks. It does.
Yeah, I think Teddy ordered a bottle.
This winter, we are saturated, so I fully expect to have to lime again, even though I lime prior to planting my fall crop. All situations are unique when it comes to lime. It is. And like we were saying, the CEC, the organic matter down there, he's dealing with sandy soils. And so down there, they may need to add, fertilizer each year and lime, because it just leaches through. But yeah, everything's situational. Just really depends.
Yeah, and that's where the soil sample comes in.
Yeah, that's why you got to do it. So
it guides you. It tells you what to do.
Yeah. I try to do it like the same time every year. So if I know I'm planting a spring plot and I do my soil samples in, just say March, then I'm probably going to do that the following year in March. So that way I can kind of build on it each year. Cool. Great info. Dave and Chris, thank you. There you go.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we've been an hour and 15 minutes, so
Woo!
I'm getting cranky. So I'm getting out of here. I'm getting my throat's itching. So, last announcement again, February 3rd, Great American Outdoor Show. If you guys are going to be there, me and Chris are going to be there. We will give you a fist bump when we see you and say hi to you and we'll answer some questions for you. We do that all the time. So, yeah, so we'll see you guys there, and we'll answer this too real quick. An area of moderate deer density, but no ag or food plots. Would you gear your premium plot attraction for fall or have a year-round offering? So in ag situations, I don't focus on summer food. In big wood settings where you have a large enough plot, then I'll try to feed them spring and summer. But with that in mind, big woods areas, you're going to attract a lot of deer. A lot of deer. Look at my channel, Garrett. Look at my older videos, my old farm. Go back like 2 years. I have hundreds of videos on that place where I started making YouTube videos was at that farm. But look at those plot, like big wood. I have so many videos describing that. But keep that in mind. Big woods, there's going to be a lot of deer you suck in. You need the proper food plot, mixture. I don't know how many deer you're at, where you're at, but you have to focus on maybe grains a little bit to handle the browse pressure. But yeah, like
Take my advice. What's my favorite saying?
feed 365.
Plant for 365. Have something in the dirt every day.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Just experiment with it. So Teddy said he may go. All right, guys. Thanks for joining in, and we will do this again next month. Once a month, you'll see us on here. So be on the lookout for the notification. And thanks for joining. Subscribe to Chris's channel, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Okay, guys. Thanks for coming along. See you on
Later.
the next one.